My report is on the UP Central Upper Peninsula Materials Management Committee.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. I just call it materials management. They did have a meeting in Escanaba just after your last meeting last month. It was on Thursday. I didn't go, I wasn't able to drive, but Jim Nankervis did go. And he would have been here to give you a report, but he's down at the Michigan Township Association conference in Grand Rapids. So very quickly, I have a report I can share with Linda on the budget. The only thing they really talked about was organizing, because we hadn't had a quorum for 2 months. So they approved January's minutes, and we were supposed to have a speaker from Eagle, a recycle specialist, Tracy Tomaszewski. But she's going to be at the April 17th meeting, and then the May meeting on the 29th is going to be at our landfill, because the group wants to see how the MRF runs. So they're going to do it 1 o'clock, I think. So it'll actually be in motion, and they'll be able to wear the earplugs and everything. I've seen it in action. It's pretty amazing. So anybody that hasn't been out there really should go and see it, how it works. So that's really all I have for you, but I do have the budget updates, and I'll give that to Linda for you to share.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Appreciate all you're doing. Public comment. Public comment. Is there any further public comment? One more time, any electronic participation comment? No? Hearing none, we will close the first public comment and move on to the review of claims and accounts. Total expenditures paid via check and EFT transferred for the period of March 14th, 2025 through March 27th, 2025 were $1,059,206.68, and the biweekly payroll for the period ending March 15th, 2025 was $875,029.40. Your pleasure, board.
Motion to pay the bills?
Motion to pay the bills. Support. By Commissioner Lalonde, support by Commissioner Adamini. Any further questions or comments on the bills? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Pay the bills. No public hearings. Privilege comment. Under Sheriff, would you like to start off?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I'd just like to present our March 2025 statistics. In our corrections division, if you look at, this is a look at the 3 different months with the moving from March being on the left to the green on the right being January. You'll notice that our daily population within our facility is remains fairly stable at 90 in the 80-bed facility. However, if you look at the next column, the average inmates boarded out is trending upwards with average of 26 inmates for the month. Currently, I just left the jail prior to coming here. I believe we were at 31. We are currently boarding out between Iron County and Alger County. Our jail management releases, those are the early releases when we are overcrowded, are trending down at 2. Our average homeless population is steady, and the average federal inmate population has increased by 1 for an average of 3 per day. Moving to the law enforcement section, our calls for service did increase. Is there a way to pull up that? Yeah. Is our average calls for service has increased to 279. I'm sorry, on this graph here, actually, I'll go back one, sorry. This is just good visual representation of our jail population, with the red line being our 80-bed capacity. The blue is how many people are within our current facility. The red is the inmates that are being boarded out to other counties. And then the top green is how many federal inmates are in the facility. So, thank you. All right, next slide, law enforcement. So like I said, our calls for service are trending upwards. However, the seriousness of the offenses in our case reports are slightly down last month. The crashes are also going down slightly last month to 35. I expect that to continue down as we get into the summer months and away from the icy roads. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, we're over that. So our civil process, serving 159, and we received 212. But just a little clarification on our civil process, that includes landlord-tenant evictions, things like that. But mainly the bulk of our civil process are debt collections that we receive, that we serve on people. Moving on to our special operations slide here. Our 131, next slide there. Our 131 unit had a total of 4 personal injury accidents and 2 structure fires last month. And our search and rescue trended up a little bit higher to 3, assisting in injured person extrications. I anticipate that to trend upwards as we start climbing into summer. Our next slide, going into our front office, our firearms applications and permits being issued are trending up along with the total handguns. So, any questions, comments, or concerns?
No, thank you for that visual. I guess I have an IT question. So I'm a bit disadvantaged being in the center of this room. Either my eyes have gone bad or we need bigger screens.
I don't think any bigger though.
Over the TVs with bigger screens. It could be the angle that you're viewing the screen.
Yeah,
it won't get darker.
That's bigger than physically. Yeah, we did just replace both of those.
Okay.
Nice graphics,
Yeah,
though.
nice graphics, yeah. Yeah, thank you for that, Under Sheriff. Well done. Christopher, Lake Superior Community Partnership, welcome.
Hey, welcome guys. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm just going to pull up my presentation.
And thank you for leading us in the pledge.
Thank you. Get this so I can pull these up on your screens, and I mostly have pictures if it helps on mine, so a little bit of writing, but turn on my volume. All right. Perfect. You good? Yep, I got it. All right, yeah, so good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. I see all of you in, kind of one-on-one at various meetings, but actually in my 3 years in this position, I've never actually given you an in-person update because we give you all sorts of quarterly updates and see most of you all the time. But figured with the leadership transition and just as the organization really comes off the tail end of its, we're calling it transformation over the last 2 years, I wanted to share in person with you a lot of what's kind of happening at the LSCP. I'm going to do what Lynn affectionately calls my squirrel presentation, because there's no way to talk about what we do without having a whole hour. I'm going to try to do it in about 10 minutes for you. So this first screen up here kind of gives you an idea of our strategic direction of where we're headed as an organization. For a long time, the LSCP was heavily a business development organization, very behind the scenes. A lot of people didn't really know what we did. A couple of years ago, we made the decision to be much more accessible, much more transparent about the work that we did, and go much more on a comprehensive economic development approach. So we have a new mission. The key difference between our new mission and our old mission is that we're now locally focused. So we still do some regional work, but the rise of partners like InvestUP and Innovate Marquette, who are more well-resourced to do some of the stuff that we weren't able to do, has allowed us to refocus our existing resources locally in Marquette County really heavily. We also now have a partner experience and a number of guiding principles that are new, the top one being that accessibility piece. This is also a structural update to give you an idea. So the LSCP is at the top. We're still a membership-based governed organization. Our membership has grown by quite a bit. It's almost 80 members in the last 2 years, and mostly small businesses and nonprofits. But we've also seen several local governments come back into the fold after having previously left the organization. And then we also established all of our services under 3 different divisions. Now you can get a better idea about what we do. So there's an economic alliance division. That's the long-term, complex economic development work. So housing, air service, childcare, energy, business development, community developments. Basically, it takes multiple years to do, and it takes longer-term commitments. It lives in that division. Mary Myers, who I think you all know at this stage, really heads up that division for us. The business network is basically a chamber and everything but name, but it's isolated under our new structure. So folks can actually, the way they give and invest in the organization, they can bypass that piece of the organization, which the county actually does in its annual investment in us and puts all of that money towards the Economic Alliance. But the business network does that business promotions work, that business networking, or if you feel it immediately and it's tangible towards businesses, it lives there. And then our third division is called Professional Services, and that's where we have all of our shared contracted work with cities of Negaunee and Ishpeming, Baraga County, Dickinson County, the Weston Health Foundation, a Superior Trade Zone. It's about 12 different contracts that we have under that division as well. This is the entire team, which has grown quite a bit in the last couple of years. In particular, you'll see in the lower right there, our Chief Morale Officer, Woody White-Germain, who joined the team about a year ago. He's a rescue from UPAWS and makes the team pretty happy when he pops by the office. But we've grown from the 8, 2.5 years ago, to about 12 folks now, 13 or 14 if you count some of our employee record folks, like Mindy Myers from the Dickinson area TDA, who's also on our team. Most of that growth has come on the small business side of things. And then this is finally just the overall structure of the organization. So when I talk about the LSCP, I actually mean all of this. So it's an incredibly complex organization that was built over these last 27 years. We have not dismantled that piece of it. We've just kind of reorganized and restructured a lot of it. So on the left there, it is the LSCP Foundation, which is the initial offshoot. So we operate things like the 4th of July Committee out of there, the Career Technical Advisory out of there, the Line Tech School. We have a bunch of special projects. In the middle there, you see some of those contract with economic development and advocacy related contracts and partnerships that we have. And then on the right, you see all of our public sector relationships that we have as well. So that kind of gives you an idea of the organization and how it stands structurally. But what I really want to share with you is kind of 2024 and what you'll see again in the annual report when it comes out next week. This first one is really just numbers around how the region economy is doing overall. We're in the process of still updating some of those. That's why you'll see some NAs there. Probably the biggest breather that we feel is actually that housing median sales and prices seem to have started to level off a little bit, which we know has been a real heartache for a lot of folks in the county, and it's really become a barrier to businesses retaining and attracting talent. So we're happy to see those prices still going up. We are happy to see them not have the astronomical increases that they had during COVID. But you'll see our population's also trending up, property tax revenues trending up, and various things under there. And then our new strategic plan has 5 external focus areas I want to walk you through really quick. The first one is around retaining and growing existing businesses. And you'll specifically notice that the word attraction isn't in here. And that was a very intentional omission from this. We have partners who can do the bigger, expensive, kind of shot in the dark attraction work. So if somebody comes to us and says they want to locate here, we are of course going to help them do that. But our focus is on those who are already here, folks who have already set up businesses, they've already invested in Marquette County. We want to help them stay, and we want to help them grow. And so we still offer a retention visit program. We exceeded our goal for last year, having seen 613 businesses through that program. We offer impact studies, we offer talent services working with Michigan Works. We've also done a lot of work around air service, of course, the direct route back to Minneapolis, which we'll talk about in a later slide. AMP-Z, a project out at KI Sorry that's looking to come in, and the Able Medical expansion are just some key highlights from there. But these could be the overall numbers, what we're seeing as well. So again, that 613, that's the number of meetings and businesses that we met with throughout the year. Keeping in mind, we only have about 3 or 4 people on our team who actually do those visits, which means they were really busy getting out there meeting with businesses all across the county. Which this also again gives you a breakdown again of what those development stages they look like. So that dark blue is more around retention and expansion, again the bread and butter, the core meat of what we do. But we're still seeing attraction clients, and we're still seeing a really high percentage of startup clients. That's been a trend ever since COVID, and it doesn't really seem to be going down at all, which kind of explains why we've implemented new services around entrepreneurship in general. And this gives you an idea around the distribution based on the county. Going forward, starting this year, this map is actually going to match the 4 county regions that the planning department has had, so we'll be able to align their data with ours going forward, which I'm pretty excited about with that. And then this again gives you the numbers over the previous years. I know I'm dumping a bunch of data at you really quick, but we ticked up in 2024, kind of reaching about those 2021 numbers, not quite, kind of related to COVID, so things really picked back up in terms of what we were able to do. The dips in 22 and 23, honestly, were really related to our restructuring. And I really had my team focused on some other things. So 2024 was the first time I had to do that. So expanding air service definitely falls under this first focus area. The big win, of course, is Minneapolis. But you have some numbers on there to give you an idea of the scale of what we're working on with InvestUP and a number of private and public partners. The sexy thing that makes the headlines is the expansion. But what's really happening behind the scenes, the work that you've done in the commission in terms of reorganizing the advisory council, the strategic planning work that's been happening behind the scenes, the relationships that are being built, it's all leading to a bigger, better overall experience at Marquette Sawyer. And we think it's ever more important now than ever that we're doing this, because as the other 5 airports in the UP receive $35 million a year in federal subsidies, if I'm looking at a program that I might want to cut at the federal level and I'm seeing half-empty planes flying those airports, I'm a little worried about that program, quite frankly. So we need an airport in the UP that can survive in a market-based economy. And Sawyer is the one that can do that. So we're really focused on that looking forward. We also, under this category, opened our West End Forward initiative. So I think some of you have been out to our office in Ishpeming. It's the old Chamber of Commerce office. When the GINCC collapsed the other year, we met with their board and asked them what we could do to help. And what came out of that was that shared vision for expanded services. But what we say is that we can aggregate resources at the county level, but communities in the east and the west and the south and the north all have different needs. And so we have a dedicated West End strategy. The office is the core part of that, but we also have the West End Advisory Council. We held the inaugural small business celebration out there, and it's going to continue to be out in the West End. We've been offering business development services out there, one-on-one meetings, a whole bunch of workshops. So we're really heavily invested in the West End of the county now, trying to balance out what we've also offered historically in other parts of the county. The second focus area in the strategic plan is around creating vibrant communities. This was totally new to the LSCP. So while there was some work around community building under the LSCP, the idea that you needed to create prosperous communities that people would then invest in and they would stay in or be attracted to in the first place was kind of new to the organization. So it happens to be my background coming from the MEDC. So we built it up with the help of what Sarah Lucas started in the year prior to me. So you'll see some highlights around there, including the strategic trails plan. We offered those services in Negaunee and Ishpeming. We have a very innovative, ambitious contract with the city of Ishpeming that we talk about statewide. We're going forward with the economic development strategy that we've developed for them. We've established a housing organization we'll talk about. We won national awards for Child Care Spark. And then I think most importantly, honestly, is we've expanded our one-on-one sit-downs with local governments across the county. So we actually have a goal of meeting with all of our townships and all of our cities at least once a year going forward to understand that. So to dig a little deeper to some of those, all the housing work that was done, one of the big things last year was a target market analysis. So you've probably seen those bigger numbers that are up there. 980 new units a year, 1,445 rehabilitated units a year. That's 10,000 units over 5 years. That's theoretically what would happen before we broke the market. We don't expect to get near those numbers, but it did quantify that the demand exists. And while population has remained stagnant, one of the statistics people don't talk about is that the average household size has gotten smaller, which means you need more houses for the same number of people, and people are staying single longer. So they're needing more units based on that as well. And so we're seeing that play out in all of our demographics. So that led to the creation of Housing Now, which is a private-public partnership underneath the LSP Foundation. It's got 25 memberships, hands actually on that group with us, and our biggest employers are developers, local governments, who have dedicated resources and time and expertise to actually moving the needle towards those TMA goals. So we have 8 focus areas because housing is not a simple issue to solve, but it's really kind of picking up since we launched it in October. A lot of work around advocacy, a lot of work around education and relationship building to hopefully get us closer. I can say that we're looking behind the scenes at some tracking that we've seen. We feel pretty confident that number of housing units and developments, a little above 500 of these, kind of working its way through it. And a lot of times it doesn't feel that way because it's smaller developments. We're talking 10, 12 units at a time. We're not talking giant 300-unit developments, which typically just don't pan out up here. Child Care Spark is another program, which of course was made possible through the county's investment through ARPA Child Care funding, and we've continued that with the Community Foundation, Great Start to Quality. We're expecting some really good news on that soon. I'm on a regional potential expansion of that program, so we're feeling really good about that. But we have had 7 folks go through it so far.
So I want to jump in real quick, Christopher, if I may. So how much funding is left in your Sparks grant from what the county?
From the county, about 23,000.
23,000.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
that.
So we will be using the remainder of that 23,000 actually to launch a grant program to help those who've already started their childcare businesses increase their capacity. So that should be launched out in April. Like I said, we're awaiting, I think, some good news about a potential regional expansion of the program. We're really excited, though, that we traveled to Minneapolis last year to accept the National American Planning Association Award for Economic Innovation for this program. Typically, they give it some mixed-use development on the West Coast, but they gave it to us. So we felt really good about that. And then this is the Sustainable Trails Initiative. 900 miles of non-motorized trails, $41.5 million is an estimated annual impact, and we think that's a really conservative number. In other words, trails actually develop businesses. It's a really key part of our economy, and now we have some really numbers to prove that. And the Trails Plan itself is causing all of our trail organizations to collaboratively work towards state asks and other asks to stabilize the program overall. So we feel good about that work. The third focus area is encouraging entrepreneurship. The biggest play that we have in here is we are the home to the Central Upper Peninsula Small Business Support Hub, which I think might be a longer name than the Materials Management Committee. Maybe like a couple of letters, but we're really proud of that. That's brought in $3.4 million into the Central UP. That's, again, the LSCP is operating, but with 7 counties wide. So we've hired the coordinator. It includes direct grants to businesses, about $470,000 worth of those. And then we've also worked to help businesses apply for Match on Main and other programs like that. But the greatest thing about this focus area, honestly, is because we can work with our partners who are really good at this stuff. Like Accelerate UP and Innovate and Marquette. They're doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. And we're just really coordinating because we think it's important. That gives you an idea of the hub and just the scale of that program. So there's 3 in the UP. We have the biggest chunk. And then that gives you the numbers through the hub, again, for all 7 counties. And that's just in about 7 months worth of work by the time we get it stood up last year. And then this, of course, under here, we also run the Economic Development Corporation on behalf of the county. And so these are the loan numbers from 2024. So that's still being heavily utilized in a very active program. The fourth area is around advocating for shared interests. There was no shortage of stuff to do around that front last year. So, of course, when the Supreme Court rulings came about earned sick time and minimum wage, that was something we had to track and help businesses comply with as that kept changing. We actually wrote testimony to support bills to address the dark store theory, and I'm really proud of that one because we were one of only 2 economic development organizations in the state that actually supported those bills to try to address that loophole. We brought along the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance with us in that goal, where the state chamber and other organizations sat on the opposite side of the table fighting against it. So I think it really speaks to our commitment here to really tackling local issues on a statewide level. We had 2 ambassador trips. We followed the UP Energy Study. There were a number of economic development policy updates. We did the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, policy conference. And then overall, we increased our involvement with the NMCA. I am actually now the vice chair of the Chamber Alliance, and I'll be the chair next year. So we'll gain some additional influence over statewide organizations through those types of leadership roles. This gives you, again, pictures. If Sheriff Everett was here, he would tell you we got a hug from the governor, because he always tells you that whenever I show this picture. Then you'll see all sorts of other stuff on there as well. That was actually the first time the ambassadors have met with the governor since their first year in office. So pretty excited about that one. And this will be in the report, so I'll kind of skip over this, but that tells you our positions on various things, mostly around support for local projects. And then the 5th focus area for us is around connecting and informing our members. We know that the LSP had a long history of networking, but what we heard from folks is that they wanted to actually learn, right? They didn't want to just show up to drink and hang out, which sometimes you want to do, but you also want to take away something else at those meetings. And so we've introduced a different way of doing business after hours. We've done exclusive partner events. We launched the Breakfast and Business Series, which Chairman DeRocha was at on Friday. We also did the new small business celebration, but we're also really excited about the ribbon cutting statistic here, which shows you that we had 78 ribbon cuttings last year. That is a lot of ribbon cuttings. There was a 117% increase countywide and a 200% increase in the West End. So really excited about those numbers, and so far we might actually be on track to beat those numbers this year if we keep up the rate that we're going. And then we have 3 quick internal focus areas I just want to share with you all as big investors. The first one is around expanding our revenue. The organization, dollar for dollar, brought in as much in 2022 as it did in 2012. So if you factor in inflation, we took like a 30% cut. That definitely limited our ability to really do a lot of work. And so we've made a commitment to doubling down, not to raise dues, but to find other revenue sources and to ask folks to double down on their commitments to the LSCP. The county, of course, increased its investment in us for the first time ever for this year, and we really do appreciate that. And we hope that everything that you see come out of us justifies that investment going forward. But we've had a lot of other public and private partners also step up and increase that as well. So overall, we had total income of $818,000 last year. Total expenses were $781. We're still finalizing some of those numbers still, but it's going to end up right around a small net profit, most of which has been pushed this year to fund some additional work that we just couldn't fund initially in our budget last year. So the majority of our work is still going towards programs and staff and economic development work. We don't have very high operations costs at all compared to most nonprofits. Our Economic Alliance Investors is a new group that we had last year, so this is everybody who gives us at least $1,500 or above to fund our work. This group has grown quite a bit. It used to be really exclusive through the LSCP Foundation, and that got a little confusing to folks, so we overhauled that effort. We just made it a combined effort. If you gave us $1,500 through the foundation or the LSCP, either way, these folks can get together, they meet quarterly, and they give us additional guidance on our work at the LSCP. The county is listed on there. We also, our focus area 7 is on investing in the LSCP. One of the other things we heard a lot was LSCP had a ton of turnover over the years. You just really couldn't count on people staying. I'm really proud to say that we've had, every piece of wood here, very little turnover the last couple of years. And I think that has a lot to do with we've changed the culture, we've changed some of our benefits, we've updated position descriptions and invested in technology that make it so our team can really perform super high without super stressing out. So feeling pretty good about that and where that's headed. And then the last one is around communicating clearly and often. It's just, again, we know that people didn't really know what we do. And so we really made an effort to be in any room that we're welcome in, to talk about our work and to share the impact that this organization has. So you'll see a bunch of there, including my least favorite picture in the lower right. I don't know why they put that one in there. But we are feeling really good about our communication. We'll have a lot coming this year in terms of website updates and other changes. I don't do any presentation without thanking our biggest investors, which of course the county is one of them. So again, thank you for everything you do. You're amongst good companies, you can see there in terms of public and private sector investors. And the last thing I'll just tell you is, again, thank you. We really appreciate everything that the county's done. You guys have been incredible partners to us. I personally appreciate your trust in the organization and giving us time to turn things around and evolve. And I'm really proud of what we've built the last couple of years. And we still have quite a bit to do in our strategic fund. So. But that's the squirrel version.
Thank you for your presentation, and keep up the good work. You've certainly showed through your leadership that there's major changes and they're for the better. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on. Informational items. We have 2 letters requesting support for the BEAD grant. One is from Highline Construction, and one is from Upper Peninsula Telephone Company based out of Kearney. Look for a motion to enter these 2 in for file. Motion by Commissioner Alholm. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Vice Chair Nordine. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Information. So, Marquette County supports all companies coming into Marquette County to do good business and expand fiber optics, internet, phone service to rural areas. So we have created a letter of support for the BEAD grant applications for these companies that we just put in the informational items. So is there a motion to accept the support letter for the grant app?
I would move to authorize the chair to sign the proposed letter of support.
Motion by Vice Chair Nordine. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Commissioner Adamini. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under Sheriff, I think you're up again. Give us a brief overview of your information here, please.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, what we have is back for the 2024 budget, we're approved for a capital project to replace our jail portable radios that we wear on a person, which would replace radios that were about 15 years old. That went unspent last year. We rolled it over to this year. So what we did is we tested out 2 different radios. The first we tested out was a Motorola, tried it out through our facility, realized it's what we needed to do. So I created an RFP for this Motorola radio and asked for sealed bids to be submitted. We received 7 sealed bids for this project, with 5 of those being for the Motorola radio that we requested, and 2 of the bids for the equivalent in the Kenwood model. So the Kenwood model came back considerably cheaper than the Motorola model, and in fact that was the lowest bid. And so we then reached out to the local vendor, Range Communication, that had the lowest bid, and tried out the Kenwood in our facility as well, and found that those performed just as well as the Motorola. So we did a side-by-side comparison of the manufacturing specifics and standards that they have, and we feel comfortable to recommend the purchase of the Kenwood radios for a total of $17,232.11 to the Range Telecommunications being the lowest bidder.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking to purchase 40 new Kenwood radios. Nice to see that the low bid was a local company. That's always nice to see. And the low bid, and I caught some, I was going to interrupt you earlier, but I kind of swore you said you carried money over from last year?
It was just, well, the capital project was approved, we just hadn't bid it out or selected
Okay,
which radio
yeah.
it was, so.
It's not usual that a department doesn't spend money when they allocate.
I try to close out all those capital
Yeah,
projects.
so we have a low bid, local company. Is there a,
Motion to purchase 40 Kenwood radios and accessories as specified from the lowest bidder, Range Telecommunications, for $17,232.11.
motion on the floor by Commissioner Lalonde? Is there support?
Support.
Support by Commissioner Adamini. Any further questions?
Yeah,
Commissioner
since
Alholm.
we bid specifically for Motorola, and we have a recommendation to accept Kenwood, is there any concerns on your part that we asked for a Motorola, looking at buying a Kenwood?
Right, so when I laid out the specifications, it broke down, it has to do this, it has to do that, have this size battery and everything. So the Kenwood was comparable to the Motorola, and in our specifications when we put out it says in there that alternative bids will be accepted, so.
Other than Motorola?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. It was tough to just describe a generic radio, what we're going into, because then we would kind of open up the floodgates of, exactly what we were looking for.
Thank you.
I'm also happy that we have a local vendor rather than, Kansas or
Yeah.
Connecticut or
I'm
Virginia.
surprised Kansas,
Right.
right? Yeah.
However, one comment, our fire department purchased Kenwoods a few years back and our people didn't like them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, they felt like they didn't work as well as the Motorola's. I'm not saying one way or the other. All I'm saying is that I've heard from our people they didn't like them.
Yeah, I've heard comments about that before, and I don't know if it's potato. It's name brand type thing. Obviously, Motorola carries a Cadillac price. We haven't tried at the sheriff's office. We have not tried the Kenwood, and I know it's out there. So I'm kind of curious to see.
I thought it said in the bid here that they brought 2 Kenwoods over to
Right, we did.
to see if it would. So
Yeah, we did a quick day testing and just made sure that they transmitted and received everything appropriately within our facility and across this facility as well. So I guess it's kind of a,
This seems like whether we bought an Arctic Cat or we bought a Yamaha.
yeah.
If I recall, right?
I just hope
Yeah,
it worked out.
it was just tough to shy away from a $4,000
Oh, I hear
savings,
you.
so it's,
Yep.
is it worth trying, and I'm willing to do it. The warranty is the same, so.
So we have a motion on the floor, motion and support on the floor. Any further questions or comments for the undersheriff? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Purchase your radios.
Thank you.
Emily, welcome. You have the floor.
Hello, I'm Emily Weech, Senior Planner for the county, and this is Nico Vermont. He's our My Healthy Climate for AmeriCorps member. With the little intro. So, yep. Yeah, this is his first board meeting. I
Oh,
didn't realize that.
pull that microphone in
nice.
front of it in the middle there so you can hear. There we go. Thank you.
Well, both of your parents have been doing public speaking for years, so there you go. Right?
No pressure.
No pressure.
If you just want to give a little intro of yourself and your position, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, graduated Marquette Senior High School in 2019, and I graduated college back in May. So this position is part of the Michigan Healthy Climate Corps. This is their second cohort. It is funded at an AmeriCorps position at the federal level, organized at the state level, and then hosted by various organizations throughout the state. And my position, clearly with Marquette County, working under Emily, kind of in the planning department. The position title is Climate Adaptation Coordinator, so mostly helping planning with kind of climate and environmental issues. Yeah.
So Nico is our second My Healthy Climate Corps member. We had Quinn before Nico, and she had presented in front of you a couple times. But both of them had assisted with the development of the Climate Action Plan, which we are presenting to you today. According to the memo, this went through the County Planning Commission. They had a subcommittee. Karen was on that subcommittee. So it has been vetted multiple times, and the Planning Commission approved the plan and asked that we share it with the County Board for your consideration. So we will just give a brief overview. Please interrupt if you have questions throughout. We did give you kind of a Cliff Notes version tonight. We do have some full copies of the plan as well. So this work started back officially in 2023 when the County Board passed a climate resolution supporting measures to respond to a changing climate, and within that resolution it gave the Planning Department the charge to create a climate action plan and commit the county to an effort to eliminate our greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So that is specific to county operations, not like county community-wide action. And then other supporting efforts to get to this point in the county's master plan. One of the goals is a community resilient to climate change through mitigation, adaptation, and coordinated public policy. And then also in the county's strategic plan, which was recently updated, there's an item to reduce the county's carbon footprint internally and community-wide. So I would just like to start by providing a little bit of a background, and then I will pass it over to Nico. And I do just want to say a big thank you to Nico. He had the bulk of this work to this point. And would like to take the time now to thank our sponsors for some of the dialogue dinners, including Christopher at the Community Partnership. We hosted 4 dialogue dinners, 1 in each of the 4 planning regions throughout the county. Commissioner Nordine, thank you for attending. Karen, and you had attended as well. We had great turnout, over 100 attendees. We had a community survey that went out. We also hosted lunch and learns with county employees to get, kind of real-time feedback of county operations, as well as a survey with employees here. Broad kind of layout of the plan is there's background section, which just lays out kind of global, national, regional, local climate policy and action. And then it breaks it out into 2 parts. So county-specific operations and community-wide goals and strategies. And with that, I will hand it over to you.
So just to give a little more context for this kind of split between community and county operations, we were focusing on, in the county-wide portion of the plan, looking at kind of actions and strategies that are kind of at the interaction between the county, community organizations, community members, and municipalities. While for the county operations section, that was focused on scope 1 and 2 emissions. So scope 1 emissions are direct on-site combustion and creation of emissions, and scope 2 emissions are emissions that are generated at a power plant for electricity that the county uses. And those emissions that were under direct influence of the county board and budget, so not necessarily all of the kind of semi-autonomous entities that are under the larger county umbrella, but kind of a more narrow focus. And in the second section, there's also a summary of 3 reports that were also commissioned under the original March 2023 resolution, including a greenhouse gas inventory, a fleet review, an electrification assessment, and a building energy audit. And those were all completed by Johnson Controls, and they were funded through an EGLE Community Energy Management Grant and a SEMCO Energy Incentive. There was also a summary of a 10-year facility analysis completed by Northern Design Works that just happened to align with this other planning that we were doing. And finally, there's a summary of the employee engagement that we did, which included a survey, which we got 72 responses to, and multiple lunch and learn events to discuss the planning process with employees. And so the plan covers many different strategies, and so I wanted to kind of touch on just a few specific ones to give some examples for how some of these more abstract goals actually translate into concrete actions that the plan is proposing in its strategy section. So, for example, under Community Goal 2, which is kind of a general public health goal in the face of a changing climate, there's a strategy to install air quality sensors and establish an air quality dashboard for Marquette County. These sensors, there's an example of one of the main brands there, Purple Air, cost roughly $300. This data usually gets integrated. The main map is called Air Now, and it shows you the current air sensors that are across Marquette County. There's only a couple. There's one up 550 near Big Bay. There's one in Marquette City. There's one in Negaunee Township. There's one out in Palmer. There's one in Harvey. But there's no others within the county. And so there are some large gaps in kind of the current data capacities for assessing air quality across the county. So this strategy proposes installing those sensors to help work on that gap. So this is an example of one of those strategies that I'm talking about. The next one, under kind of a resiliency for Marquette County to extreme events, the strategy would be to update the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which was created in 2014. And that plan kind of is a combination of looking at actions to reduce wildfire risks, such as proposing priority fuel reduction treatments, and also kind of assessing the current emergency wildfire fighting capacity of Marquette County. Another example from the community section is the current home repairs and energy efficiency programs that is led by the county and community organizations, and looking to continue these programs and looking to expand if possible, where you have a lot of these programs that address health and safety issues faced by residents, but also provide projects that can reduce their energy bills and therefore reduce the emissions that are created from heating their homes. Now shifting more to county operations, you have a pie chart in front of you for the county operation emissions for 2023. These are the three main buckets of emissions, and the largest one being electricity, which constitutes approximately 45% of county emissions, followed by fleet emissions, roughly 28%, and then natural gas heating emissions, which is roughly 27%. And these kind of provide the context for the remaining goals and strategies for county operations. For example, again, returning to county electricity, which was kind of the largest slice of that pie, the plan proposes a couple potential strategies that could reduce emissions from county electricity, including looking to develop renewable energy generation for the county itself, which would thereby reduce the emissions that we are currently producing from grid electricity. Second potential option would be some sort of voluntary green pricing program that could be done with Marquette VLP. The general way these programs work is when you take electricity off of the grid, renewable electricity looks the same as fossil electricity, and you purchase something called renewable energy credit, which would tie the electricity you're using in your building specifically to the renewable energy that's being generated, as opposed to just an undifferentiated form of electricity. Those are some potential options for county electricity reduction. The next goal focuses on county building emissions, and one of the reports commissioned by Johnson Controls was a building energy audit, which looked to identify facility improvement measures to address health and safety, building maintenance, and potential energy reductions across county buildings. And across all of those projects, there was a total of 25% of the total county emissions that could be potentially addressed by some of those building maintenance, health and safety improvements. And then finally, looking again at that kind of third big bucket, county fleet emissions, looking at the potential for electrification of the county fleet. This slide is taken from the fleet electrification assessment conducted by Johnson Controls, and it looked at current county vehicles and replacing them with an internal combustion engine or an electric vehicle, and looking at the lifetime cost that would be associated with the internal combustion engine versus the electric vehicle. They found some vehicle electric replacements could save up to $60,000 over the lifetime compared to internal combustion engines. So looking at how the county can assess some of these potential cost savings and potentially design some sort of electric vehicle pilot based on this data.
Thank you. So, you know, the board certainly, you've done a great job with this plan. We spent a lot of money with Johnson Controls to come up with this plan to create efficiencies, and it's a wonderful thing when we can upgrade lights to be more efficient, and the heating system that operates the facility itself, and upgrades in insulation and solar rooftops create renewable energy. I fully applaud that. The only problem I have is when we look at, there should be a level of omission when I think it comes to emergency vehicles, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the sheriff's department, the 131 rescue, the larger truck. It's just not, the technology is not there. I don't think, if you've ever been out, whether it's like my partner alongside of me on a fire scene or a rescue, and they're up in Big Bay for 24 hours, 36 hours around the clock on a search, we certainly can't rely on the electrical cord up in those rural areas. So bit of a practicality thing with a common sense where it applies on the majority of these things, wonderful, wonderful. Practicality of law enforcement and emergency service vehicles just doesn't fit the window as of today's scale, but well done. Thank you for all your effort. So those are my comments as far as what I see when it comes to emergency service side should have a little bit of a exemption, I guess.
Could I?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I don't remember if you were part of those. Okay, so we didn't mention this in our presentation, but as a part of this whole process, we had multiple meetings with department heads specifically about the fleet review, and there were plenty of comments. So we understand that and definitely want to be logical with this.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just pointing it out. I'd assumed it was addressed.
Yeah.
But you know, the document as a whole is a wonderful wonderful creation. So again,
building codes
well done.
And road patrol. They're not going to be the pilot initially for EVs.
Sure. And does any commissioners have any further comments they'd like to?
I agree with the vehicles. I'm not quite sure if they're there for where we live and what the challenges we have. So see you have there's a Silverado pickup truck here, and then an EV, a Ford EV. I just can't imagine plowing with an electric truck. I don't know, maybe it works. I don't know.
The Ford Lightning?
Yeah.
No, that's a good one.
Well, hold on. Stay tuned with the legislature.
I don't know.
It's a good one.
Vice Chair.
But then do I have to worry about plugging it in? Although I got to tell you right now, I have a hybrid. So my wife bought a hybrid, and I really like that. But I don't plug that in. It's got a separate battery set, and it just.
Stay tuned when the legislature starts to tax you for miles you drive and captures rather than fuel tax. So that's.
I just want to say this group did a great job.
Great job.
Yeah, great job.
Outside community involvement surveys, really connected to any kind of entity or business that you possibly think to get feedback from. And I would encourage you to look at it. It's a very readable document. A lot of history and cool stuff in there. So I would encourage you to.
Is that a motion to?
Motion to approve the climate action
Oh,
plan?
I guess that is.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Alholm.
I had more to talk about. I had more questions
you
first.
sure?
Well, I'll support, and then we'll have it on the table.
Okay, support by Vice Chair Nordine. Okay, you have the floor, Commissioner.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you tell me, you mentioned renewable energy credits. Can you explain that concept to me again? Because it was offered when Nagani, the city, offered that for a while, and then it's not offered, but I understood it as you buy credits, but we're not necessarily getting the green energy. Or is it credits to buy more green energy on the grid?
Yes, so you would be
This
buying
could go a while.
I think they term it, you're buying the renewable attributes of energy generated elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so the BLP does have a program, and they have a partner, I believe, that's downstate that they work with for this program. But yes, you are not directly purchasing renewable energy that they can then send to you purchasing the credits. Yes.
Okay. And then
Go ahead.
one more. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
There's no hurry.
Your community goal number 2 with is it the purple air? That's the machine. They're $300 a piece, and we have 3 right now. But the goal is to get more. Like how many?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of depends. This is something that we could do with the county. We could install them out at Sawyer, the county forest. That seems to be a pretty big gap. And, you know, a potential air hazard, say there's a wildfire out there that, you know, would be good to track. But this also is something that we could encourage other entities to install. I mean, $300 is not that much money.
okay. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Emily and Nico, thank you for your presentation. Well done.
Thank you.
We have a motion and support on the floor. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Climate action passed. Signatory for remonumentation grant. So we have in front of us to appoint Andrew to be the signator, but I think
So I think you just gotta
it
appoint the
would be
finance.
in line
manager.
to appoint the CFO to be the,
I think they want an actual person.
Do you need it to
well,
do so?
we could,
It-
well,
it's ready to be done now. You can make it me and I'll do it and it'll be done. but
okay. Fair enough.
It's gonna be done before I leave.
Yes,
Put it
got
that way.
Got it. So then, look for a motion to approve the CFO.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Nordine. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Commissioner Malone. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Liquid de-icing. Dwayne, you have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. What I have before you is a request for consideration to proceed with the purchase of a 4,400 gallon bulk purchase of runway liquid de-icing fluid. We went out for RFP and we acquired 2 bids for this. We had Nature's Alpine Solution LLC. They provided a bid at cost of $8.26 per gallon. Then we had Cairo Tech. And they provided a bid for $6.92 a gallon. The total price for the 4,400 gallons between the 2, Cairo Tech was $30,404, and Nurture Alpine was $36,344. This is a product we use and we have been using successfully at the airport for the last few years, and we wish to replenish our bulk storage of 4,400 gallons.
So we have a low bidder of Cryotech de-icing technology, total bid of $30,404. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Elholm.
Support, and I have a question. So how
Support by Vice Chair Nordine, and go ahead.
How does that compare to the pricing in the past years? Has it gone up with inflation and everything else here?
This is relatively close to what we purchased. I don't recall the exact price, but this is very close to what we purchased it for last time.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Dwayne, you're still there.
Yeah.
Shippo.
Yes, this is SHPO. Everybody may recall SHPO. What I'm requesting the County Commission to consider is approving to proceed on with the Cultural Resource Survey and Historic Management Plan Agreement. We had previously approved this agreement between Marquette County and Mead and Hunt back in July 2nd of 2024. This was under the anticipation that the FAA was going to fund this through a future AIP grant. Unfortunately, we learned this year that the FAA Regions Office did a determination and they deemed that this particular project is ineligible due to the fact that the demolition of the buildings that we proceeded with in our CARES Act did not normally or would not have normally been supported through an AIP grant. So their ultimate decision was, unfortunately, they supported it all the way until they did. And they're saying that this no longer is an eligible project. This project was, again, we did agree with anticipation of FAA approval or funding on this. The grant or the project total was $213,801.75. What this project more or less lays out is it creates the cultural resource survey and historic management plan that we need to put together because Marquette Sawyer Regional Airport, after our demolition project, was deemed a historic district.
So Dwayne, has this been done already?
This has not been.
So who's going to be doing the work for $213,000?
This would be a project through Mead and Hunt.
Okay, so this is a Mead and Hunt, and has this been bid out already?
It's not, these projects, being that we do a 5-year solicitation with our consultants.
Yep.
They were already on our solicitation list, and we awarded it to them. And this was a spin-off of our Schipple project that came through the demolition project.
But I guess my first question is, didn't we already pay to have these buildings?
We did pay to have the buildings demoed, and we paid for an environmental assessment under the mandate of Schipple, and then out of that came a memorandum.
That was like $600,000.
It was a very expensive project. Out of that came a memorandum of understanding between the FAA, Schipple, and Marquette County to proceed with this cultural resource and historic management plan. And that's over the course of 5 years, we would create a plan moving forward. Granted, there's a lot of key points to this that which will help us in the future, but ultimately it lays out the groundwork on what we have to do on any project that would have any historic impact relating to any of the buildings or any of the structures that we work on the airport. Without this plan, unfortunately, it requires us to go through very similar steps that we had to with the building demolition. We'll have to go through a Section 106 where they'll assess every project individually to see if it is historic, and then if it's deemed historic, then we have to go through an environmental assessment, which is...
So let me interrupt you for a minute. So will this $213,000, if the board chooses to spend, will that cover all of the Sawyer Airport? They're going to determine what's historic and what isn't? Are we going to have that? Because I'm not sure. I thought we already had that, but apparently we don't.
No, this project will cover all of the remaining components that are tied to the property owned by the airport through Marquette County and any project that we proceed with moving forward. So prime example is we're doing an air traffic control tower project. We are actually under a Section 106 process right now to evaluate what we're doing, if it's going to impact it, namely because we didn't have this framework completed. Unfortunately, what we're doing at the tower is not going to be an impact, but we still have to, per FAA regulations, do the 106 process to determine it's not historic. So ultimately, keep it short.
Yeah.
It's killing me. I can't help myself.
So I got to do one more. CFO, do we have funds for this, Ann?
It's coming out of the airport reserves.
It's coming out of the reserves.
We do, but they don't last forever.
No, I have such a hard time with this. I'm just ready to lose my mind. But we need it to proceed? Is that as I understand it?
That is correct.
I might as well.
Yeah, this is your district. So we did the Schippo thing once already.
It drives me nuts because here we are trying to tear down buildings, 14 buildings, and we had millions of dollars, and then all of a sudden Schippo, State Historic Preservation Office, says, well, wait a second, or FAA says that we got to get Schippo's permission. And then we had to put $600,000 that we could have used for good purposes in this county, for a lot of good things, that we had to go hire an engineer to do the study just for Schippo. What a waste of damn money. I mean, I can't believe it. It drives me freaking nuts, Schippo. And now we're going to give them another $213,000 because of another requirement from Schippo? Yeah. Oh my God. Well, someone has to reach out to the legislature and say, this is horseshit.
It gets better, Vice Chair. So we're trying to make Sawyer best in class and become successful and self-sustaining. It's near impossible. We had 600K the last time because somebody at the state of Michigan thinks that Sawyer is historic, right? It's mind-blowing to me that we're going to have to spend another $213,000. Maybe the federal government should know that we don't get any essential air service money for the airport that we maintain and operate. And
This is the state doing this.
I don't understand that, but everybody else has a pool of money around us to the tune of $2 or $3 million worth of essential air money. We don't get any of that. All right, we don't get any of that. And to look at this and have to spend another $250,000 to have somebody tell us the old block buildings that they put up are it's just mind-boggling to me. But I guess I'd look for, as frustrating as this is, I'd look for emotion.
It's not even that old. The facility, the Sawyer Air Base was only constructed in 1958, and after that, it's not that old of a facility.
Well, hang on,
So
we're old.
no, it's historic. Who made it historic, you know?
They're nasty too. We drove around and
Oh
looked
my
at them.
God.
Anyway, in order for Dwayne to operate his facility out there, he's asking for $213,000, board. What's your pleasure?
So moved.
Was that with joy?
Emotional.
All right, Commissioner Alholm made a motion. Is there support?
Reluctant support.
Gotta do it.
Support by Commissioner Adamini.
Yes.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Can you say reluctantly in favor?
All in favor?
I'll put that in a minute.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed? Motion carried, 3-2.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Late edition. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. Resolution supporting funding, Institute of Museum and Library Services. Commissioner Lalone, this is your wheelhouse. Would you like to read this in, please?
I would like to read this in.
Thank you. You have the floor.
All right. This is a resolution of the Marquette County Board of Commissioners in support of retaining funding for the Institution of Museum and Library Services, IMLS. Whereas the Institution of Museum and Library Services, IMLS, is the primary source of federal funding for libraries and museums in the United States, providing essential funding to ensure access to information, lifelong learning, and community engagement, and whereas IMLS funding, particularly through the Library Services and Technology Act, LSTA grants, enable statewide programs such as the State of Michigan eLibrary, which is MEL, which provides residents with access to research databases, ebooks, career development tools, and K-12 educational resources. And whereas LSTA funding also enables the State of Michigan eLibrary catalog, MELCAT, and statewide delivery system, which provides 435 member libraries access to holdings of over 34 million items. These holdings include books, audio, movies, music, provide library patron access to unique and historical materials not widely available regardless of geographic or economic barriers. And whereas IMLS funding helps Michigan libraries bridge the digital divide by supporting technology, training, improving broadband access, fostering innovative programs that serve rural and underserved communities, and whereas the loss of reduction of IMLS funding would significantly impact the ability of libraries and museums to serve their communities, limiting access to resources and programs that enhance quality of life and learning and opportunities, and whereas the Marquette County Board of Commissioners recognizes the vital role LSTA-funded programs play in fostering education, civic engagement, and cultural enrichment, and believes that continued federal investment in IMLS is essential to sustaining statewide library services that meet the needs of Michigan residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the Marquette County Board of Commissioners strongly urges the United States Congress to maintain full funding for the Institute of Museum and Library Services, ensuring that libraries and museums across the country can continue to provide essential services to their communities.
Thank you. So I'd like to make the motion to support the resolution. Those are, in every community, the libraries are a great asset for, of course, times have changed, right? We have a different type of institution now than we had when I was young, but certainly a great asset for the community. If you're a young student or a child, it's a great place to get educated. So motion on the floor by the chair.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Lone.
The only thing I would say is
Questions or
that I think
comments?
you're directing it to the wrong place because you're directing it to the U.S. Congress, and it wasn't the U.S. Congress that cut the funding.
No.
But okay.
It's our president.
That's, so, a motion on the floor, support. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Do we need to
Aye.
amend that?
Oh,
Roll
it's a
call.
resolution. You probably need a roll.
Roll call, please.
Chairperson DeRosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamini,
Yes.
Commissioner Malone,
Yes.
Commissioner Nordine,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmore. Yes.
Okay, moving along. Late addition. We were, I think, is it congratulations in order on your retirement?
I'm not sure if it's a retirement or a shifting
Well,
of
I don't know
jobs.
yet
but-
if it's a retirement. Well, we
Sure.
can't have that for me.
We been noticed that Ann will be moving, maybe we'll say, and wish her well. She's been stellar, and there'll be a need to fill the CFO slot. And Molly, do you want to?
We may need to do an acceptance to the resignation before.
Fair.
I think it's a.
Fair.
I don't know that that's
She doesn't report to the
necessary
board.
because I don't report.
She does not
So
report
it's
to the
okay?
board, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that.
She reports to the county administrator.
There is none right now, right?
Right,
So maybe that's in order.
which kind of throws that back.
Yeah, I guess that's.
It's your call.
The only concern I have is right now we're unsure as to whether it's a resignation or a retirement.
Oh.
We have a last date, so I think we could accept her notice of departure,
There we go.
potentially.
That's, if Ann's.
I have no idea.
That's very political.
Sure.
Notice of departure.
All right. So I guess first order of business would be accepting the departure date.
I
Is
would,
that
since we have
accurate?
no administrator, I'd say that we should do it. I'm trying to
Yeah,
be careful here.
Currently, we don't have it, right? We don't have.
I'd like to make a motion to accept her departure date of April 30th.
Motion by Commissioner Lalone,
Support.
support by Vice Chair Nordine. Any further questions or comments on that issue? Outside of congratulations. All in favor?
Aye.
Or you want a roll call, Linda, or no?
Oh, no.
No,
I
aye.
just think it's good for the.
Okay.
I think
Aye.
you're right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, moving forward, you can take over.
So we have approximately 4 weeks for Ann to transition out of her role and transition that over to a new person. Cammie Fossbender has been an employee of the county for 14 years, most recently in the assistant finance manager position, and prior to that she was in the treasurer's office for 9 years. She would be a very good candidate to consider as an internal candidate, and that would allow for a very smooth transition for her to take over for Ann's role. So I'm just here to ask for you to consider Cammie Fossbender for the finance manager position effective May 1st.
I would make a motion to have Cammie Fossbender in the new role of finance manager / CFO.
Yes.
And, Cammie is a licensed CPA also, so sure that she will certainly fulfill that role So, motion on the floor.
Support.
Support by Commissioner Alholm. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Who's the motion by?
Thankful for
Me.
your
Joe.
support and
I did.
mentorship over the last almost 15 years. I can't imagine a better leader and mentor to me in this position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Public comment. Public comment. Do we have any further public comment? Any electronic comment? Public comment. One last time, public comment. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner Adamini, we'll start with you.
I don't have anything else.
Commissioner Lalone.
I did have my second board meeting with the CAN board that I'm on. The current director has a 6-month extension to her current contract with the stipulation of a review, is my understanding. So it was 4-1, or 4-5 was the vote.
4 to 5. How many board members?
Is it currently 10?
Yeah,
We were missing one.
I was missing.
He was
I
out of
was
town.
over
I-
video and they wouldn't let me vote.
Okay. Any further?
What? Yeah.
Commissioner Alholm. Vice Chair.
I don't have anything.
Legal counsel.
I have nothing to add.
Ann?
Nope.
Linda?
No, but thank you.
You're usually,
Oh, wait,
Oh.
I do.
I knew
I
it.
want to just remind everybody about the May 6th election. I think it's very important to put that out there. We just have a small election coming up in Marquette County, which has to do with the millage in Richmond Township. And also, they're looking for funding for the Gwinn area community schools on a ballot proposal as well. So if you're in Richmond Township or have any affiliation in the taxpayers to Gwinn area community schools, it's a good thing to know about and go and participate in.
Okay, thank you. And I have nothing more. Well done from the climate adaptation group. A lot of work, a lot of time and effort in that. Well done again on that. So moving along,
I'd move we go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268 1F and 1H.
motion by the Vice Chair. Is there support to go into closed session?
Support.
Support by Commissioner Lalone.
Commissioner Nordin?
Yes.
Commissioner Alholm?
Yes.
Commissioner Adamini?
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone?
Yes.
And Chairperson DeRosa?
Yes. We'll take a minute. We're going to clear the room and then we'll look to IT to do what we need to do. Thank you.
I don't know that. Are you with my report?
Okay, so,
It actually worked out fine.
We're back in
yeah,
office.
so,
All right, okay.
how do we want to do it? Both parties could not agree.
I don't think we have to.
We don't have to do that?
Don't have to do it.
No, we don't have to do
All you have to do
anything.
is adjourn.
Yeah, that's it.
Make a motion to close?
Motion to close. Is there a motion to
Motion
close
to
the
close.
meeting? Motion by Commissioner Lalone. Mr. Adamini, would you second to close the meeting, please?
Pardon?
Would you second to close the meeting?
I second.
There you go.
Second by Commissioner Adamini. All in favor to close?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting closed.